Hey guys, it's Jay here with another Ordeal video. So today I wanted to go over the announcement regarding the things that Brent dropped on the Discord. I do recommend that you join the Discord. Every now and then we will get some information on there, as well as Brent answering some questions. So I highly recommend you join it for yourselves, right? Now the announcement is in regards to flashbacks that we could, and at least a couple of them we more than likely will get in the next season. Now it's 4 of them. I probably have the picture up, but I am going to read them off still. So the flashbacks are going to be Sabito giving Vaal his first scar, KODE's first fight against Vaal 200 years ago with the revelation of blood sacrifice, Kagaya's past, and Future Shay's eye, which will be a flash forward. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And before I get into it, I would like to ask, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and share it with others. Now, without further ado, onto the vid. Now, the first thing we're going to be talking about is going to be Sabito versus Vaal. Now, obviously, I am very excited for this to be shown to us, as it was mentioned in season 1, and we never got any context surrounding it. So I'm very excited to see that. I'm also excited just because in my last video I did say if we get anything from Sabito, I would be happy, while I was genuinely expecting us to not really get anything else. So it's definitely going to be good. Now, we don't have any technical context of as to why they were fighting, but we can kind of assume that they all more than likely saw Sabito as a threat and went to try and take him out, similar to how he tried to take out Leo, right? Now, I can only guess that because Bjorn tells us that Vaal orchestrated the deaths of 3 gods here, with one of them should be Sabito, right? So there's 2 other gods here he orchestrated the deaths of that we don't even know of yet, right? So, and with that in mind, it makes a lot of sense that Vaal would genuinely make an attempt to try and take him out, or actually recruit him, and then Sabito, character obviously not, going down that path, and having being a part of the bodyguard clan, he would reject that, and which would probably result in an altercation, right? Now, honestly, Vaal might have genuinely been surprised that Sabito was able to, contend with him, but also that he was able to scar him, because when Vaal shows us the scar, he's like genuinely upset that even is on his body. He says this will be repaid, and so we'll more than likely see him be genuinely upset and like surprised when Sabito actually scars him. Now, we don't know if he scarred him with Hisame, or if it was just with one of his swords, or technically his black sword. But for me, my guess, you could really go either way, but I'm gonna assume it's Hisame, only because later on he does tell Bjorn that he's not a fan of the ice element, potentially implying that, in this fight, obviously Sabito uses his talent a lot, but more than likely it being, Hisame is what gave him the scar, or Hisame is what gave him, great trouble, resulting in him being scarred also by Hisame, right? Now, we don't technically know the full context of how they ended up fighting in the first place. Like I said, it could be that they all tracked Sabito and went to recruit him, just for them to fight. But it also could be that Sabito was sent to fight Vaal, as they believed his talent would be able to contend with him, which is something I can see, as Leo sends for his wife and his son to go get Sabito, as Sabito is the only person to face him and live. But then again, it also technically wouldn't really make sense if most people who have fought him have died. But we really don't know the context, so it could also just be that, they send him to fight him in hopes that him being one of their stronger god tier is able to fend him off and or defeat him, right? But we really won't know any of the context until it's actually shown to us. But what are some of your thoughts on that? Now, next we're going to be talking about KODE versus Vaal. Now, this is taking place 200 years ago, so it's going to be in a different time setting than, the current, and even like some of the flashbacks we already have, which is probably going to give some, maybe like a more interesting scenery. But regarding their encounter, I'm wondering how they caught up to him, or if the war got to a certain point where they were essentially just fighting some of the more stronger and like top class members, and then the heads of code just ended up, either tracking him down, or finding out where his base is at, or maybe Vaal himself just went to straight fight them. But it is going to be interesting to see how the actual initial interaction and things leading up to what makes them fight, right? This will also explain why Vaal wasn't by Kane's side during the war, as we know Kane was at that airport base that Leo and his mentor Jamie were at, but that was a surprise to them, and he wasn't really supposed to be there. They weren't expecting him to be there, but we know later on in the season Vaal has been by Kane's side since Kane was a child. So the question is, where was Vaal when Kane was fighting Leo and Jamie? betray me, right? And it's gonna be because of, you know, the blood sacrifice technique. So we're really gonna get to see the reason why Vaal was not anywhere around during Kane's time, or at least, you know, at the later portion of it when he was defeated, right? Now, with this fight, we're also going to get to see six more original talents. I'm hoping all of them are original ones. There really shouldn't be any need for any of them to be, you know, some of the more reoccurring ones. Like if one of them is a Kong user, that'd be a pretty big surprise, but they all look like they have, you know, their own unique stylings. I'm pretty excited to see maybe the like golden mask one. She looks cool. I'm also excited for the really tall lady with like the two-sided hammer like thing. She looks very menacing if I'm being honest with you. The one dude, somebody said he looks like Escanor, maybe a little bit, but like not that much. But I am looking forward to the other guy next to the tall lady with like the rapier. I'm assuming he probably has like a more fencing oriented style with that type of weapon. But I am very excited to see all of these new and original talents that they should be possessing. And since they are going to be fighting Val and he is going to be, you know, being attempted to be sealed away, the question now comes to how does he escape? How does he get away? Because obviously Kagaya wouldn't be born at this time. So who is he going to have in his vicinity? Or, you know, what is going to be the thing that leads to him still being alive? Because it wouldn't really make sense if he uses blood sacrifice and it leaves him in that old and decrepit state and he, you know, looks like he can barely move. He looks like he can barely like stand. And Kagi is the one that took him away. How is he gonna escape like them just realizing that okay, this technique didn't work. It got him to, you know, this weakened point, but we still have to put in more, right? So I'm genuinely wondering how he flees, how he gets away. If the technique is successful, they shouldn't die during the fight, but maybe at that point Vaal has enough like chi left over to kind of deal with a couple of them before he escapes himself. It really does beg a lot of questions though. Now, our third subject is going to be Kaguya's past. Now, Kaguya's past is one of the most mysterious things probably about Ordeal as of right now. I mean, we know that he's the older brother of Sabito, making him Shay and Yukiko's uncle. And, you know, we know his talent in that he's been working for Vaal for like, what, 20 years, I think he says. We also know that he was in the top 150 and he was ranked 102 and that he would have been sent to Patmos. But like, aside from that, we don't know really we don't know anything else. We don't know how he was when he was young. We don't know what led him to unlock the black mask, what happened when he unlocked it, and if they immediately went after him. We don't know anything like that. So his past is going to be very interesting to see because it's going to answer a lot of those questions. Now, Kaguya's past in this context is a little bit vague because it can mean, you know, a couple things like some of the things I just said. It might be a like series of flashbacks like Mei and Sabito's story where we see them as adults and then we also see them as kids. So you might get to see a younger Kaguya being a member of the Heart Clan, along with, you know, maybe when he was a little bit older. We don't really know the timeline of when he specifically, you know, left the Heart Clan or anything like that, but we may get to see him interacting with Sabito. We may get to see, you know, their relationship, whether they were close or, you know, whether they were like bitter rivals and Kaguya was always envious and jealous of Sabito. We'll probably get to see things like that, which would be very good for Kaguya's character. As we know, when he sees the statue, he's like genuinely upset at like Sabito and that the fact that, you know, Sabito even married Mei. They might have like a horrible relationship that we get to see and kind of dissect a little bit, which would be very interesting, honestly. Also, in regards to him being like a kid and like him being a part of the Heart Clan when he's younger, we might just get to see him using his talent when he was younger, which would be very cool because we see that he made it into the top 150. He was a rank 102, and then he unlocked a portion of his mask that led him to be sent to Patmos, you know, before he fled. But we don't really know like what it took to for him to master his talent, right? We don't know if it took a lot or if, you know, maybe he was a prodigy like Sabito, but since Sabito had Hisame, he was a little bit more overlooked, right? We don't know anything like that, which will lead me into guessing that maybe we will get to see him unlocking his black mask, which I believe is what initially leads him to Vaal. So I'm thinking that if he unlocked his black mask through whatever means, right? Whether it be training, whether it be a battle, you know, whatever it is, maybe he, after he unlocked it, you know, and he, you know, informs KODE because he is in the top 150, we know more or less the top 150 kind of have to answer to them, like kind of like Andrea, but she also might be a special case, right? So maybe he informs them of like his mask and then he shows them what it does, which means we also might get to see what the black mask does or we see it in an actual fight. You know, Aldrich or, you know, they all all voted that his mask was too strong or, too destructive or, endangers the genuine public safety. So he would have been sent to Patmos. But obviously, he would probably argue against that type of verdict, which would lead him to, teleport using his green mask. And then maybe Vaal, since Vaal is always stalking in the shadows, he might have just been watching, or, maybe he just found Kagaya like that, right? He just found Kagaya upset and then took him in, which would lead Kagaya to have the mentality he has right now, right? Now, I don't really have any guesses on what the Black Mask can do, but I would love to hear some of y'all's guesses in the comments. So, and our last subject is going to be Future Shay's Eye, which is not a flashback, but a flash forward. Now, honestly, I personally really don't have any guesses of what it can be. I asked a couple people in the Discord, and their names should be up on who thinks what. Now some of them thought it could be a talent object. Personally, opposed to that, I would not like if he had a talent object, or if even if he has a second talent that isn't a talent weapon innately. I don't really like that, and I will be making a video regarding that. I don't really know when it'll come out, but I do have a video plan regarding that subject, right? But if it is a talent object, or if it is somehow imbued with a second talent, it could be interesting, seeing how he uses that against certain opponents. It is a future version of him that is supposed to be like an anti-hero going down a more villainous path, so it could be something very destructive. It could be something that works very well with a talent he already possesses, that being Ilios, or it could be something that has such a unique factor to it, he might only use it for certain people. We know he's going to be very strong in the future, but if somebody can contend with him, he might have to surprise them, and then he opens his eye. Now we do see in the flash forward in the first episode of the second season that he has his eye closed, which is something I didn't notice until now. So genuinely, maybe his eye does hold something that he keeps hidden, and then when he uses it or when he opens it, it's kind of like a Sharingan type of thing for Kakashi, where it's something special, but he has to keep it like closed and more or less sealed away, right? Now the other theory, or the other potential possibility, is it could just be a flash forward for him, accepting the path he's gone down to, similarly to Rokash. We know at the end of the season, or we at the end of the second season specifically, that Mahalalel, aka Ilios, warns him to not be like Rokash. Like, he warns him if he continues on the path that he is on, he will end up similarly to Rokash. And since we know that Shay kind of ends up being that type of character in the future, maybe this is him just kind of reflecting all the things he's done, which leads him to think about Rokash and reflect on how he has become very similar to him. Now we do see like that panel in the first season where they say the same thing at the same time, kind of alluding that Shay is going to be like Rokash in the future, or they have the same mindset at that very moment. So this could be something similar. This could just be Shay reflecting on his own character and the person that he ended up becoming, as opposed to the person he should have been. It could kind of be either or, but like I said, this is a little bit ambiguous, so I would also like to hear some of your guesses in regards to Shay's eye, because it can kind of be anything but also nothing at the same time. But that is all I have to talk about in regards to the flashback announcement. I'm a little excited. I'd say I'm excited to see obviously the Sabito versus Vaal one, but I also am just as excited to see Vaal versus KODE. Like, I would like to see the surprise on their face when they successfully pull off the technique and he is still alive. It would probably be like the biggest shock to them, right? Let me know your guys' thoughts on any of these, or what you think specifically is going to happen with Shay's eye, or some of your thoughts on like Kaguya's past and things like that, and I will see y'all in the next one.